Much like the rest of the world, the pandemic left brands and marketers in a frenzy. The testing times required marketers to think from a perspective that encouraged sensitivity while maintaining brand loyalty. Communication strategies had to be revised, and narratives were utilized very carefully to position the brands and create insightful conversations with their customers. In this seventh episode of Brands of Bharat, which is powered by Nukkad by Stage, we, along with our industry experts, aim to dig deeper into how brands have been positioning their narratives during the pandemic to build upon loyalty and how they have utilized content marketing tools to adapt their communication strategies in the new normal. In the panel today, we have Neha Gaur, who is Digital Marketing Head at Games 24/7, Ramalingam Subramaniam, he's Head of Brand and Communications at Mind DCX, Sumit Sonal, he's Lead Marketing at Me, Pareen Lathia, he's AVP Marketing at WazirX, and Neha Bareja, who is Head Brand, Social Media and Content at Zoomcar. We also have with us Runa Sinha, who heads revenue for a content company called Nukkad by Stage. Thank you, Runa, for coming forward as a sponsor and also agreeing to be my co-host today. Those of you who do not know Nukkad by Stage, it is a premium and sensible content company for Bharat with a 65 million plus monthly reach among Hindi audiences. They produce and deliver informative and empowering content with humor and satire through the fictional characters who are derived from a real world. The main shows are focused on finance, trends, entertainment, current affairs, and health, etc. They have also established a video content lab where they make research-based content with data-driven approach to brands for different purposes. So, my first question is for Sumit and also Neha Bareja. You can also come in on this question. Question is simple: how has COVID-19 changed consumer demand and perception about brands? You guys are free to quote examples of your own brands, free to quote examples of other brands you feel have contributed to this change. Over to Sumit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so a lot of things changed for us as the Me brand, if I may talk about. You already know that we were always seen as the smartphone brand first. In just 3 months of the pandemic, the first lockdown, our market perception completely changed. From being seen as a smartphone brand, we were also being seen now as a consumer lifestyle electronics brand. Let me quickly explain. Apart from Me smartphones, which is majority of our business, there are smaller businesses as well, like personal grooming. We have trimmers, beard trimmers. We also have robotic vacuum cleaners. We also have air purifiers, water purifiers, and so much more. Before the pandemic, people obviously preferred our smartphones, but at the same time, very soon, people, because they were now living at home, spending almost 18, 19, almost 24 hours at home, the requirements, the demands started changing. A few of the areas where you will see the demand, I spoke about personal grooming. TVs were showing a huge growth. Why? Because the cinemas were shut. People could not go out. People wanted bigger screens at their homes. So TV came in as a big demand. The third thing which came in as a big demand was robotic vacuum cleaners. People were kind of sick because maids were not coming in. There was no house help which you were getting. People were getting frustrated of cleaning their own houses, and that's when we launched the robotic vacuum cleaner. So what I want to tell you is that the demand completely flipped, right? From being seen as a smartphone brand to now being seen as a much more than a smartphone brand, which is now Me. So pretty positive. Our laptop, our notebook business also showed a huge growth because of e-learning now becoming like almost like a main segment thing. So yeah, big growth, big numbers during the pandemic itself. Yeah.
Neha, what about you?
Yeah, so for a brand like Zoomcar, which was essentially an enabler of experiences that you would take when you have to go for a vacation leisure, suddenly March 2020, the lockdown got imposed and all you had to do was stay at home. So for 3 months, our businesses were completely shut. We were not doing anything. But when in June, the lockdown started to lift, the first thing that we saw was there was a tectonic shift away from ride hailing and public transport. People were no longer looking at an Uber or an Ola or any other brand. They wanted their own cars. People who had their own cars, they were safe, they were fine, they were just going out to pick up their groceries, any emergency travel, etc. But for a large lot who did not have their cars, wanted a solution, and that's where Zonecar came in, and our offerings like a subscription model wherein you can subscribe to a car and keep it as your own for 1 month, 3 months, or whatever duration you want to, was something that really became helpful. The second thing that we started to do was one-way transportation. Like a lot of people, we saw a lot of influx of people from Bangalore, Mumbai to their hometowns. They wanted to take a car, but they didn't know as to when are they coming back. So they could just take the car, leave it there, and that's about it. They didn't have to return it to the original pickup point. So because of all these things, right from, and also a lot of our focus moved to safety, hygiene, personal mobility solutions, something that you have at your disposal, help the perception of the brand from something which, as I said, was an enabler of experience to something which is letting them fulfill their essential needs and emergency needs. We came in as a mobility solution partner, which is with the consumers day in and day out if they need to step out. And at the same point in time, we obviously amped up our safety and sanitization process. We started deep cleaning, 32-point sanitization, contactless sharing of the car. So even if the car had to be delivered to your doorstep, we ensured that there's almost nil human interactions. We started with something which is keyless entry devices. And as a result of it, we saw a lot of people coming into the brand fold, started exploring, car subscriptions, personal mobility, share ownership of cars only for a stipulated point in time and not buying cars. This also get accentuated by the fact that people had, especially middle class, right? There were layoffs happening, there were salary cuts happening, affordability was a challenge. So here, Zoomcar stepped in as a brand which is affordable, safe, hygienic, ensuring and putting your health at the forefront. So yeah, as a result of it, we saw that when the lockdown lifted, we saw a 4x increase in our business and in our bookings. So that's how the consumer demand and perception has changed towards Zoomcar in the last 1.5 years.
All right, so these were just two examples of how brands have reacted to consumer demands and how they have kind of shifted their offerings, made a slight change into their offerings. But I'm going to ask Neha Gaur first that how has content marketing, how does content marketing fit into your overall strategy? And how did you utilize this piece of content marketing to enhance brand loyalty? I mean, how did you get more consumers? How did you ensure that your existing consumers stayed with you? In about 90 seconds or 2 minutes, if you can explain us, Neha, and then Ram can come in, and then Pareen can come in on the same question. Over to you, Neha.
All right. Thanks, Rahul. Online gaming was actually already growing exponentially at 40% CAGR for us. And the pandemic-led lockdown and the search for the in-house entertainment options led a lot of them to try out online gamings for the first time. And that said, building awesome games is just our passion, and as a company, for us, nothing more important than constantly delighting our players. This is where constant marketing and another strategy played a big role for us to be a key differentiator. How did we do it? Videos were a big part of it, and it helped us to showcase a product, what are the game features, get our customers to talk about their experiences, how were the existing customers, how were they finding the product. And this helped the new users to be able to seamlessly try out different products, different games. And the digital influencers were also a big part, which helped us to cement the trust about the platform. Thank you.
Thanks. Ram?
Thank you so much. So content marketing definitely played a big role for us. We as an industry are in a way, there is a lot of lack of information about cryptos, about the investment potential there. So for us, content is an important piece in the overall communication space. For us, the pandemic there were a lot of things that happened in and around the pandemic. So there was this entire Supreme Court verdict that brought in the legal clarity within the asset class, that brought in a lot more interest, influx of customers coming in, and then obviously the pandemic hit. One thing that happened was you saw people investing in stocks, in equities. All these markets were also rising, along with how the interest within the crypto space was rising. So one obvious thing that we had to do, and this is something that we did in somewhere around May last year, was to start this entire education initiative called DCX Learn. We eventually launched it as a full-fledged product in mid-June. But we felt that education was a primary driver for sustainable crypto adoption. So yes, content does play a big role. We have expanded it to other channels, be it community, be it partnering with the larger media houses. And it's not just us. I think across the industry, everyone is playing that role to bring in more education in the sector. So yeah, it's a pretty important channel.
Parin, you want to add?
Yes. So I think what Ram said is exactly the entire industry-wide stand, right? For us, content is not something that you want to have. It is something that you need to have. Without content, how are you going to educate people? And if you do not get educated investors, people are just blowing their money away, and that creates a very negative image for the entire industry, right? So for us, content comes at the center of everything that we do, and the way we've experienced this in the post-pandemic era is that we realized that there were a ton of people looking to learn already, right? There were a ton of people who said, okay, I have some time, let me go and learn something new. And cryptocurrency has been at the forefront of all news channels. But then we also realized that, we are not educators, right? We are exchange people. We know how to run a great exchange. So what we did was we said, okay, let's partner with everyone who's already educating. And we partnered with media channels, we partnered with influencers, we partnered with some educators, companies that are giving degrees in blockchain and cryptocurrencies, primarily because we understand that they have their own audience. Everyone wants to learn in a different way. And what we are doing is a lot of repeat content. So you will see we work with 10 influencers, and all of them talk about what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin, what is history of money, why this is important. Why? Because everyone has their own style. Everyone has their own angle, their own perception of what's going on in crypto. And what happens is their audience connects with them more than they do with us, right? So we try to reach out to everyone who's been educating in crypto industry and say, hey, how can we support you in any way possible? And that just pushes the industry forward, right? Right now, our thing is to grow the pie, not to figure out, what's the share of the pie and stuff like that. And just like to give you a perspective, last year, right before the pandemic, we had a volume of $25 million per month at WazirX. And this year in April, we ended up doing $5.2 billion of volume.
Great.
So that was like 1,000x growth in volumes itself. And this has large part of it has been fueled by different content providers or people who have been educating people in various ways, which as a central entity, we couldn't probably have achieved.
Sure, Parin, thanks. Crypto is new, crypto is exciting. We'll learn a lot from you guys. Over to Runa.
Yeah, hi. My question is for Neha Bareja. Okay, Neha, we all know that getting readers and viewers to pay attention to your brand's content became even more challenging during this pandemic, of course. How did your brand manage to push its products through narratives while ensuring that it resonated well with people? Because people were not feeling that positive, that's why.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, travel has always been a space and especially personal mobility, wherein Zoomcar came into the picture as an enabler of experiences. We always were, communicating and putting out a lot of glamorized content, a lot of travel pictures, aspirational content, beautiful locales, etc. But suddenly when the pandemic hit, we could no longer do that. We could no longer say that, okay, take a take a trip to Goa or anywhere else. We had to talk about hygiene, safety, essential travel, etc. Initially, the first aspect that we had to cater to and counter was that people were still wary of taking a self rental car as well. They just wanted to either have their own cars or not go out at all. So to elevate, to counter that fear, we came up with the 32-point sanitization and the testimonials of people who'd taken a car during COVID times, interviews with our on ground executives, video testimonials of them shown cleaning the car thoroughly, so that that confidence and that trust and that safety comes in. It was very important for us to ensure that people feel safe while using the service, right? The second thing that we had to do was people were home, they were creating a lot of content, using a lot of content. Instagram started with something on Reels. There were trending trending topics every day. So we had to ensure that even if we are talking about the most mundane things like safety, hygiene, sanitization, which was after a point in time had become white noise for everyone, right? All the brands were talking that. So how do we then bring in a differentiator? So the differentiation that we brought in was through the various content formats. We did a lot of topic jacking. We tried doing a lot of reels on, picking up trending topics like Aurora music video that went live, and then emphasized on the 32-point sanitization and a lot of other things so that people engage with us. And second was obviously testimonials, because at that point in time, human interaction and one person telling the other that, okay, I have used the service and they are absolutely safe and they are just not saying it for the sake of it, was something that furthered our cause. So that is something that helped us establish and counter and address the pain points and the anxiety points that our consumers were feeling. And that's how we furthered our narrative and our products. Also, we tailored the products, as I already mentioned, right? There were 1 month subscription, there were one-way travel that we started, there were rentals for 3, 5, and 10 days so that people can keep a car for 10 days, etc. And along with these formats is something which helped us push the narrative and products during these testing times.
Sure. Thanks, Neha. I would like to know from Neha Gaur that, the gaming sector witnessed a massive surge during the pandemic. How did your brand leverage upon the same with the help of content marketing?
Thank you, Runa.
Yeah, sure.
We saw that a lot of our entertainment brands, let's say OTT, online shopping, food delivery, all of them saw massive demand as well during this period. And the one thing that had changed was the play field had completely shifted to digital. So the bidding for consumer attention just got more intense. That's what we noticed, and we had to be more creative and imaginative in our approach. So a lot of we had our content put out on introducing our product, what are the different game features, because all of them for the first time trials for the online gaming. So we wanted to talk more about how online gaming is different, how is it entertaining, how do you play these games. So most of our communication also went around the superior technology we have at Games 24/7, and we are the best in making awesome, providing awesome game playing experiences to people. And we want to talk more about how we are an unparalleled destination if somebody is seeking for thrill, fun, and entertainment in the gaming sector. This was where all our content was tailored to providing these kind of experiences to players.
Sure. Thanks. My next, question is for both Ram and Pareen. And in partly you have already answered the question, but just wanted to, have a deeper dive into it. So the cryptocurrency industry in India, as you mentioned, is still in its nascent stage, but the pandemic definitely, surged it to come to the forefront. How did your brand utilize narratives and content marketing to reach out and build customers amongst the Bharat audience? Because we see a lot of Bharat also, taking a lot of interest in crypto and investments. So maybe Ram, you can answer first and followed by Pari.
Thank you so much, Runa. So it's an interesting take. Cryptos, I believe, is an investment asset where you can enter with very limited requirements or resources. For example, you just need a mobile phone and a good internet connection, and you can start investing. Secondly, what I realized from the experience out there is there is a huge surge coming from all across the country, not necessarily from the traditional pockets. Uh, the reason being, there is a good access available, and comparatively, uh, two major factors are affecting the audience on when we talk about the Bharat aspect of India. One is their ability to take this kind of a investment decision because of lesser baggage that they have. Traditionally, in your traditional pockets, you have the same set of products already available for investment. In this case, they are more open to experiment. And secondly, the penetration of other assets hasn't been that much when it comes to these markets. Now, this was a learning that we had. We have done a lot of vernacular content. We have partnered with, as Pareen also mentioned earlier, right? Working with a lot of influencers in the rural area, in the tier 3 markets, because they have so although their audience in terms of an influencer would be smaller, the penetration is much better, the recall value is much better there. So we found that this connect to be much better. We did a lot of activities, not just in the traditional media. We also did a lot of stuff in regional media, a lot of engagement activities. um, so a lot of interesting things we have been doing in different content, in different languages, and with working with different people in those regions. So yes, as highlighted earlier, also content has been a way in which we have been able to educate and push the message across, and then utilizing these sharper tools was a way in which we could reach out.
Sure. Pareen?
I think from where I saw the last entire year, firstly, Bitcoin per se, which drives our entire industry, has been seen as a hedge against global chaos generally, right? And last year was the biggest chaotic situation that we've ever seen in our lifetimes, at least, right? So generally, people preferred saving in gold. Whenever something went wrong, historically, people preferred saving in gold. This time we've seen the pattern change, and even large hedge fund managers have come out publicly and said we prefer Bitcoin over gold. So that's been a big, like a global stage for crypto to launch in a way. Also, what has happened is, from my experience, what we've seen is that people who haven't invested in, let's say, stock markets, or who've never even done an FD, these people understand crypto way better than people, let's say, if I'm talking to someone who's been in stock markets for 30 years, because there is an entire phase of unlearning to do when you get to start understanding Bitcoin. It means first you have to forget everything that was taught to you in economics, and then say, oh, okay, this is new information, I did not know this, right? So it takes quite some time for us to convince someone through a CNBC show, compared to, like Ram said, work with an influencer who just understands Bitcoin themselves and say, hey, I want to explain it to my audience. Although I may be a musician, I may be a stand-up actor, I may be anyone, but I do want to explain it in my own way. And we've seen that somehow there has been phenomenal growth in, let's say, non-traditional target audiences, like women traders on our platform increased by 9,000% in 1 year, right? Mostly, generally, investment market doesn't look at women as the target audience. Similarly, tier 2, tier 3, and even rural areas, these people have been super receptive, because somehow they just understand the concept of what Bitcoin is doing, and it makes so much intuitive sense to them that it takes some time. They will be like, okay, let me just buy 1,000 rupees worth of Bitcoin, and it's easy, right? So that's been the role of pandemic mostly. Our content strategy again has been very decentralized, and we do not dictate content, and we say, hey, you know about Bitcoin, your audience, go ahead and educate them and let us know in whatever way we can support, right? So that's generally how it has gone. It's been very, very organic. Instead of saying, okay, this is how we should educate people and let's do something massive where there's a pipeline and every person goes through this particular way to learn about it, because there is no one way to learn about what crypto is or what Bitcoin is. So that's been general our market now, and I think we've got quite a few people to understand what crypto is, because it's a complex technology. But now people do accept it, and we've seen participation from stock markets, we've seen participation from Indian media. Now every entity wants to be a part of this revolution. So that's in a way just goes to show that the industry has been working really hard, trying to educate people. Right, that's all.
But Pareen and Ram, this is unrelated to content marketing. Do you guys also educate your consumers about different types or different forms of cryptocurrency? As an investor, I know Bitcoin, I know Ethereum, I know blah blah. 4 or 5 of them, right? I believe there are 35, 40 on your platform. Same could be on Ram's platform, right? Do you guys run education program on specific cryptocurrencies or not?
So, okay, if I may answer, the way to go about learning about cryptocurrency primarily is to understand Bitcoin first, right? Without understanding that, to get into some other cryptocurrency is like saying, I don't want to ride the bicycle, but I want to get on a fast motorbike, right? Cryptocurrencies are in itself at an intersection of technology and markets, right? Coders understand technology very well. They understand how Facebook is built and stuff. There are traders who understand markets. Now you need to look at both the angles before getting into cryptocurrency, and it becomes super challenging. It takes months at least, if not years, for anyone to go through this journey. And the start is through Bitcoin. You understand that, and that's also the most stable cryptocurrency out there, right? When you're entering in any other coins, you are increasing your risk by an order of magnitude. So if for newbies, that's not something that we usually tell them. But once they understand the fundamentals of decentralization, why Bitcoin exists in the first place, then they can go ahead and, like, we've done some advanced seminars for, let's say, students of IIM Ahmedabad, lawyers, cohorts, IITs, people who really understand the fundamentals first, and then they want to learn the advanced techniques. Otherwise, if I say one coin's name right now, what will happen is all of audience will go and buy it because they'll think, oh, this guy knows something special. So that's not like recommendation of projects or coins is something that I don't think in anyone does in the industry, because we don't want newbies to get into something that's super complicated for them to understand.
Got it.
Yeah, I would actually second that, right? So even the way in which we run the education is starting from Bitcoin, right? That's where you begin your entire journey. We also, so depending on the risk appetite, so we have actually split our products into 2 parts. One for the new person entering for the first time, and then we have a product that is built for people who are experienced in the field, who understand what's going on. So for both of them, we have different education plans. Largely focused today is on the people who are entering for the first time, and more education is provided around basics of a blockchain, basics of the entire concept of decentralization, about as Pareen put it, right, the union of technology and finance. These are the topics that are discussed first. As you go further, and if you're ready to take those further risks, we have an advanced platform. Again, there we have a different style of education, where we also partner with some of these projects, where these projects come down and explain to the people like what they are all about, right? So information in that way and education in that way is also provided. But at the onset, if you're a new person in entering this industry, making your first investment, we would advise that you start with learning about what is blockchain, what is the entire concept all about Bitcoin, and that's how you should begin. And as you go about understanding and becoming more experienced, you can go about learning more.
Well, thanks, Ram. Thanks, Pareen. This was actually out of syllabus. I didn't intend to ask.
Sure.
Una.
Okay, yeah. I would like to know from Sumit that this pandemic also greatly changed the data consumption patterns in Bharat. And we all know that everybody is studying from home, working from home. And so just, shed some light, on how did MI capitalize on the growing importance of smartphones for, remote education and work from home during this pandemic, and give a perspective of Bharat also.
So, two of our categories which somehow got affected very earlier in the pandemic stages. Number one was smartphones, and number two was the laptop category. Now we realized that we needed to bring in much more affordable price points in both the segments, which is both the notebook and the smartphone segment. While our smartphones are one of the most affordable which you can buy out there in India, our notebooks were not. So what we decided for e-learning, in the month of July itself, we deprioritized our entire supply chain and we prioritized one product above everything, which was an i3 machine, Intel i3 machine, which came in at a price bracket of rupees 30,000. Now that somehow became the number one bestseller laptop for e-learning purposes. It came with a camera, processor, good hard disk, and everything else. We saw a huge jump over there, right? Because people were learning from home. Somehow it also became the entertainment center of the home, right? People were accessing internet. It became the first computer for a lot of families. Second place where we saw the growth, and we also worked with a few celebrities on the site to support this cause. But the second cause which we were trying to support is trying to make sure that nobody gets out of the school in the post-pandemic times. Now that was difficult for us. So what we did, we collaborated with Sonu Sood, because Sonu Sood and the brand also works very closely when it comes to the CSR efforts. What we tried doing was we gifted like almost thousands of phones to the underprivileged kids so that they have one tool to access their classes and so much more, right? So obviously there is a softer side of the brand as well, and these are the smaller things which we were doing. But yes, data consumption has completely changed. The third segment which was affected, which was positively affected, was the TV segment. And we also saw a lot of families opting, and if you would look at the data, there are a lot of families still have those old Dabba CRT TVs, right? Now we saw a lot of families, because they were not stepping out for cinema and movie theaters. We saw a lot of family also upgrading for the first time into smart TVs, right? So that was the growth. Everything is data driven. We are world's cheapest data plans. Nothing goes cheaper than us. And India was utilizing it. We were obviously seeing the demand, and then we were also putting right products in right places so that everyone can benefit. So yeah, that's what happened on the data consumption part of it.
A lot of things happened. Thank you, Zoe. Thanks. Over to you, Rahul.
Thanks, Runa. So basically, we are now shifting into the segment where we are now talking about the type of content that's become more relatable and hence helpful to the audience. So Neha, help me understand, how do you ensure that the content put out by Zoomcar is relatable and helpful to your audience at the same time, which is also probably helpful during this new normal?
Yeah. So for us, the most important thing was to put out relatable content, right? And relatable content at this point in time during COVID was only restricted to safe travel, emergency travel, essential travel. So the first thing that we had to do was tell people, which was counterproductive for us as a brand, which is an enabler of experience, to just say, don't step out unless it's absolutely necessary, and then give them the various 3-4 points: social distancing, use a mask, do not go out unless absolutely necessary, etc. The second thing was the choice of the platforms. Essentially, we had to just restrict ourselves to our own channels, our social media handles, our CRM base, and send out PNs, emails, etc. Because at this point in time, we couldn't have done an influencer campaign or reached out to YouTubers who were creating travel content, because that would have been very obvious to the audience that this is paid and this is not even the need of the hour, and this is insensitive towards what was happening at that point in time, right? I couldn't have collaborated with an influencer and spoken about 15 destinations to travel in India or untapped places, right? So that's why these were the things we had to be really sensitive about. We were not traveling, we were not promoting vacation anymore. Even our alliances were around a lot of health and mental health packages, something on medical partners where you can pick up your your medicine supplies, so that even for those essential needs, we were ensuring that we curtail the stepping out as much as possible. So that's how we were trying to be relevant and useful for them. We were telling them, then when the lockdown started to open up, June to October, November last year, 2020, was a time when people were still going to travel. So something that we started was a vacation campaign, because the work from home continued. The interstate travel was allowed. So we started talking about a lot of vacation campaigns that you can go to nearby destinations. And then we came up with a lot of hotel alliances with Fab Hotels and a lot of other partners, wherein you can stay there for a longer duration. You can stay there for 10, 15 days to ensure that you're safe. These are hygienic places. And at the same time, experience some sort of scenery, some sort of normalcy to your otherwise restricted life within the four walls. Then what we also started doing was a lot of friendly travel partners, friendly travel options. How can you ensure that? How do you something that saw a lot of upsurge was people had suddenly become very, very socially and environmentally responsible. We all had a lot of time to retrospect, right? So the whole campaign that we started was around how do you become a safe and a responsible traveler. Even while pandemic, when you're traveling and doing workation or going and staying at places, how do you ensure that you do not disrupt the local life, you do not disturb the local people there? So that's how the content furthered the whole socially responsible and the do good narrative. And at the same time, we try to be relevant, authentic, and useful to our customers.
Those were really some great ideas, Neha Vareja. Thank you. Neha Gaur, I wanted to ask you, where does video content such as YouTube videos or tutorials fit into your overall content marketing strategy? I'm assuming you all do a lot of tutorial videos. And do you think Bharat audience is more inclined towards such content as compared to other form of content?
All right. So as we said, there were a lot of first-time online gamers who are going to try all these cash gaming segment. So it's very important for us to educate them on how to play responsibly. What is the acquired skill? How do you learn that skill? What are the strategies you need to apply while playing these games? This was something we had to talk about to these users who are playing for the first time, and that is where educating these users through YouTube was very, very useful for us. And our research and insight says that YouTube really helps us to reach the deeper pockets of India. Not just talking about the metros, the deeper tier 3, tier 4 cities who are now looking for newer ways of entertainment. As we all said, a lot of people went back to their hometowns, and then they were no longer in Bombay, and then trying to see what are the entertainment they need there. So YouTube videos, tutorials, especially of how do you play and how do you see others are playing and what are the strategies they're applying, and learning this new skill was exactly what helped us to get players to keep continuing on how they can play responsibly on our platform.
Thanks, Neha. Thanks.
Then we had our yeah. Thank you.
No, sorry, you're saying something. Actually, the video stopped.
No, that's it. No, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Neha. Luna?
Yeah, I would like to ask, Ram and Pareen again that, what are the innovative methods and platforms which have turned out to be a success for content marketing during the crisis? Ram, you may say something and then Pareen, you can follow.
Sure. So, see, at the stage where we were, okay, and we weren't very picky and choosy because we wanted adoption happening across the board. So we weren't saying that only this is my channel and only focus here. And because of that, we explored a lot of different avenues. But something that I felt has worked very strongly for crypto over the years also is building the right community, building that focus with the community, and then providing education, providing that kind of. So education may not always be about the formal piece of it, right? Also about introducing new projects, introducing people, like-minded people, getting in that conversations going. So I felt that that effect, right, that community as a channel, and then the network effect coming out of it was something that was was something that helped us a lot in the overall growth, right? And not just for us, the industry also saw a lot of benefit because the communities stayed together with the industry for a while, and then it also helped us grow further. So that is, as a channel, is something that I felt was very important. A lot of activities within those spaces, like conducting regular sessions, having AMAs with a lot of different stakeholders coming in, right? And also an interesting way where one thing that I like about the industry is you can reach out to people very openly in the industry, even if it happened when we were sizably a smaller industry, to even now when have a huge chunk of people with all different partners. You can still uh, reach out to someone in the organization, and there is always a open talk. And I think at a massive level, you can even reach out to the founders and talk to them. So that kind of a connect builds a lot of loyalty there. So I would say that has been a very good channel where we have been able to disseminate content, but also get a lot of inputs coming in from them, which has led to the overall development of us as well as the category.
Sure. Thanks, Ram.
So,
Pari?
I think definitely all social media channels now have a substantial portion of Bharat, as we call it, right? In terms of people who are watching, not just the number, but the viewing time, the attention span given to digital platforms has grown significantly. No doubt about that. But we've also realized that Bharat is where they want to be. Okay? They are not where we want them to be. So one of the unusual things that we did was we started a WhatsApp newsletter, and most of crypto community is on Twitter and Telegram, right? They do not really use WhatsApp, but somehow these people have just taken on to this, and we are getting organically, people are referring their own friends and saying, hey, why don't you subscribe to this channel, because they keep giving me latest updates, writes on WhatsApp, no spamming, no advertising, no reason, no promotion for WazirX out there, nothing. It's just pure news channel for anyone who's interested in crypto, and it's right on WhatsApp. It's free for you, right? We've had, of course, email newsletters. We have a YouTube channel. We've done all the traditional forms of whatever has been working generally in the digital space. But we've discovered that when you want to talk to Bharat, you go where Bharat is, not try and bring Bharat on Twitter, because of course certain portion might come, but that's not their comfort zone, right? So where do we go? And wherever it's possible, we, of course, the content, there is a lot of overlap in what we do on YouTube and what we do on, let's say, WhatsApp newsletter. But then these are two different audiences, and they want different kinds of experience, right? So someone on WhatsApp wants to consume a very short piece of content very quickly. They want something that's high importance. We cannot just shoot any news at them. On YouTube, people are relatively at ease, right? Even if when we do AMAs, usually we've found people hanging out on the YouTube channel for about 2 hours. Same with Twitter Spaces and all of these things. Also, I think from our YouTube perspective, we started getting a lot of requests to do it in Hindi. Right, so we do AMAs every week, and we've seen a lot of organic comments saying do this in Hindi. So we do 1 week in English, 1 week in Hindi, and we've seen that users just love that when they do not feel dumb when someone is talking in very complex high level English, right? So I think content may just be the same. The way it's delivered, the platform it's delivered will change as more and more Bharat comes online, and we try and target them for our campaigns.
Thanks, Pari. Lovely insight. Thank you. Sumit, I would like to ask you, it's a very straight question. As a marketeer, how do you measure content marketing ROI and performance?
Okay. First, I think I'll speak a bit about content. Quite honestly, we are one of the largest content companies as well. When you look at me, one of the most primary agenda which we have as the entire marketing team is to educate. You will not find Samsung, Apple, other brands doing this exact same thing. But we like to educate our customers, and whatever you buy should be informed. Like it should be an informed purchase decision, right? So content is something which is very, very, very critical for us. How do we measure? Is so you also need to look at Xiaomi as a social company first, or MI as a social company first. If you look at the entire segment, I think we have the most minimum spends. Our CEO keeps making this joke that we have 0% marketing budget, but amongst the entire segment, I think we have the most minimal marketing budget. Hence, the importance of content. How do we map this entire thing? Number one, of course, conversions, which is both across all our platforms. That is very, very important because finally, at the end of the day, we are a hardware company. Second thing is social listening, right? How much positive sentiment is the influencer or any content piece spreading in the market? We try to tap exactly into that. So social listening is something which is very, very important for us. The third thing would be, of course, Amazon page views, Flipkart page views, and much more, right? So mostly, if you look at this, this is like FMCG of smartphones. You will look at the core numbers, but you will also look at how your brand is progressing with
Perceived.
so much more.
Sure. Sure. Thank you. Our next question is for both Neha, Gaur and Neha Bareja. That what factors are of utmost importance to you while choosing content marketing platforms for effectively target audiences, for targeting audiences?
All right, if I can go.
Neha, yeah.
Okay, if I can go.
Sure, sure. Certainly. Yeah.
As a very responsible gaming company, we're constantly looking for ways on how we can optimize our marketing spends. So we would say that reaching the right audience is extremely important. Like, what are the tools and levers to reach this audience? So let's say if I say we want to reach male 30 plus, there are multiple categories of people. Male 30 plus can be somebody who's in corporate, while male 30 plus can be somebody who's a small scale business owner versus somebody a blue collar worker. Can we differentiate who is this male 30 plus we're reaching to so that a communication is tailored accordingly? I think that would be a number one factor in deciding the marketing spends. The other smaller aspects is what is the scale of the platform, what are the different ad formats we can try, and innovative and interesting things to capture their attention. These would be the softer aspects, but I think the right audience would be the main important one.
Sure. Thank you. Neha Bareja?
Yeah. So for us, when it comes to choosing the correct content platforms, there is a mix of what we do on own platforms as well as the paid platforms, right? When own platforms are concerned, when it's about something which is about imagery, travel imagery, obviously, then we go for platforms like an Instagram, wherein it's all about imagery and building that aspiration, etc. But when it's about a lot of contests, building in that UGC, etc., is when Facebook and Twitter has essentially proven very successful for us because that's where people participate and they give in their entries, etc. But when it comes to the paid platforms, some of the factors that we look at it, obviously, one is as to what are the kind of content that our audience is consuming and if that platform caters to that kind of content, and there is this mapping and there's this whole resonance that's sitting in. Second is the audience mix. While 97% of our consumers are men, and therefore we pick up content platforms and content partners accordingly where the traffic is skewed towards men. But for certain offerings or certain products where we want to reach out to women, we then ideally go to platforms which are more women centric. So that's where we build in the aspiration, that's where we build in the credibility, that's where we get the correct word of mouth coming in from those platforms. The third is the resonance with the brand. Because we are an enabler of experiences, we would want to reach out to a content marketing platform that gives that innovation, that gives that immersive experience, that even if it's a written piece of content, a blog, that essentially brings out the nuances of travel, that brings out those experiences that we commit and we say that we will bring it alive through our services. So these are 3 or 4 factors and parameters that we look at while we are evaluating content marketing platforms.
Sure. Thanks, Neha, for the lovely insight. Over to you, Rahul.
Thanks, Neha. Thanks, Luna. Now, we've also talked about the mechanics of content marketing, what goes in, what goes out, everything, how to produce great content, everything. this last bit is about the success stories that you actually remember, uh, having done anything that you remember in past 15 months. Maybe your brand would have done it. Maybe you would have remembered a fantastic content marketing case study, which any other brand would have done in your own categories. Uh, let's hear about that quickly. From my screen, I can see Sumit first, and then Neha Bareja, then Neha Gaur. Then we'll move to Pareen Lathia, and then Ram. Right? So, Sumit.
Oh, thank you. I think I'll extend from what Pari mentioned earlier, right? That as a brand, when you educate, you also need to understand that the customer will be a little more persuaded when they hear it from their own influencers, right? As a brand, you will always have a bias. But if I'm going to a certain influencer and if he or she is explaining the product, I'm going to hear them a bit more or understand them a bit more. That is something which we also achieve with our robotic vacuum and a brand new segment. Nobody knows how does a robo vacuum cleaner work in India, and that was also getting us lesser activations or lesser conversions, if I may say it. We tied up with Biswa. Now, big guy when it comes to comedy, big guy when it comes to humor, quite significant reach in millions. We gave the product to Biswa, right, and asked him to create a humorous piece of content with the robotic vacuum cleaner. This is something which I remember. Why I remember it is also because of how Biswa was going to add humor plus the in a day. I think and the content became almost organically viral. We did not have to push a lot of money on it. Our product got covered. Biswa's humor got covered, and our story got lastly. And it was a fairly longer content piece, almost 2 to 3 minutes. You don't see these longer content formats doing very well. But because it was humor and humor travels very fast, and humor also cuts across all your SECs, it did travel very fast. So, yeah, influencer content coming close and making people understand how does the product work. These are the things, and I think that was a good campaign which our team worked upon.
Fantastic, Sumit. Neha Bareja.
Yeah, so while as far as the industry is concerned, travel faced the biggest challenge, and we were not able to do much about it because of the lockdowns, the restrictions around travel. But what we thought was Zoomcar is a brand which is known for its rental and subscription services. Whereas we also have a very strong B2B angle to it. We have white label solutions, we have IoT devices, etc. About the sanitization, safe transportation options for our B2C customers. Let's utilize this time to also build on our B2B community and help in explaining the brand and humanizing the brand on the various formats. And therefore, we started content marketing and content publishing on LinkedIn in a very big way, wherein we started reaching out to our partners like MG Motors, Nissan, started doing collaborated content pieces, blogs, interviews with them to explain the brand and also establish our leadership in the space, which most of the people were not aware about unless you were working with us as a partner. So that is something that we did, and obviously it resulted in a lot of increase in the business inquiries that we started to get. The numbers started to roll in. Other OEMs and other partners noticed us and started reaching out to us in terms of inquiries, the business collaborations that they were looking at, wanting to buy our products, and the fleet operations companies reached out to us. That is on the B2B front because it was a good opportunity while we wanted to make the most of the situation. On the B2C front, as I said, we leveraged most of our internal consumers and the CRM base because that was the lowest hanging fruit. We took this opportunity to continually talk to them through PNs, emails, etc. And what happened as a result of it, because we were talking to them constantly, when the lockdown lifted and people had the opportunity of traveling, we saw a 2x increase in the demand of our services, and people wanted to book a car and go travel or take it for their essential needs, etc. So yeah, these were very tactical things, I may say, but resulted in great success for us in demand and supply, demand generation, wherein a lot of travel transport partners were still juggling and struggling to figure out if the pre-COVID levels, but I'm happy to reach almost 110, 120% of what we were pre-COVID levels because of this constant engagement through our content marketing platforms and the various formats that we interacted with our customers on.
Right. Very interesting to know that. Neha, God, you want to add?
Yes, while we did say gaming did see a huge demand in our services, I would just want to take a recent example of what happened when we saw this huge demand. While we did have a lot of content about how to play, how to responsibly play, what are the new strategies you can apply, we did still see a lot of people just joining in to just try out the products and not playing very responsible about it. So what sets us apart from the other companies is that we specialize in behavioral science, technology, and artificial intelligence to provide a very personalized experience to a lot of these players. So we could actually identify what are these mistakes and errors these people are playing, how can we make them be more responsible, and to have these content given to them, educate them more. We had Mandira Bedi give a videos for us, or in-app videos, educational videos, where we were directly telling people that, okay, these are the kind of mistakes not to be made, or this is how you play, and this is how this can be an entertaining game. This is to be played while having fun and have the thrill of playing cash games here, and while still being very responsible. So what we saw is, we made it as personalized as possible. Even after COVID lifted, we had people who just didn't drop off and were still continuing to play over the weekend or over sometimes, and just continue playing and having that experience of entertainment through our game.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Neha. Pareen, it's your turn.
Yeah. So I think if there were to be one campaign like that stands out here in crypto, we are usually, we are doing a lot of innovative stuff. But then one campaign, and the most simple one, is that our founder, WazirX founder Nischal, started tweeting saying, India wants crypto. This was not even a campaign. This was not planned by some marketing team. This was not no idea where this is going to go. But the idea is that, crypto is a mission. We are bringing it to India with RBI ban. There was a problem. There was a problem that people thought crypto is illegal, and there was a need to spread this awareness, saying, crypto is a global phenomenon. It's an asset class in itself. India cannot ignore this. There is billions of dollars worth of capital that's not flowing to India because you are restricting something like this. And it just started as a movement. I think now it's been more than 800 days, and it's just been adopted by everyone, the community, industry. Now we have celebs and stars retweeting hashtag India wants crypto. We are not paying them. Sometimes we are surprised that, this guy, like let's say Kunal Kapoor or Nikhil Chinappa, ended up retweeting. We did not pay them. Why are these guys doing it? Because they felt for it. They just felt for the mission that we are on. And now the hashtag doesn't even belong to WazirX. It belongs to the community. It belongs to the industry. And people take it forward. When we won the Supreme Court case last year, there was one guy who actually printed, "We won, hashtag India wants crypto," went to the Supreme Court and clicked a picture there and posted the selfie that went viral. We did not pay this guy. We did not even plan this. But what I really believe is that if we are true to the mission, whatever the company has set out to do, if we actually are on that mission to do it, community usually adopts it. And when community runs with it, it's more than what any marketing department can do. Right? So that's my campaign that I really remember.
That's a nice anecdote, Pareen. Ram?
Yeah, so from one of the oldest campaigns in crypto that he shared about, to one of the recent ones that we started in this month, or not this month, just a month before, the whole question around Bitcoin liya kya. And we started it as a space where we wanted to ask some pertaining questions out there, make it, normalize it for people out there, saying that, okay, there are these many investment options. This is one more for you. did you invest in it, right? We took the humor angle because traditionally finance is a bit on the other side where crypto is a bit more fun, right? So we took that angle, but it helped us build recall. Last 2 months, we've seen huge uptake because of that particular campaign, and spread across influencers, buying media, and running it via the community. So we've seen a lot of stuff happening because of that, including being part of certain conversations, and this became a line that came after everyone's saying "Arey, wo sab to theek hai," and then it became a joke started within the 4 or 5 of us who started this campaign, but then it went beyond that also, and we have been seeing these comments happening, as Pareen also pointed out. When the community picks up, they start utilizing it in the ways they wanted, and we start seeing certain kinds of traction that we had not even imagined, and things of the same magnitude keep on happening. So yeah, that's one of the campaigns that's in recent times we have been able to pull off.
All right, really good examples, everyone. The conversation today has made it really evident that narrative building and content marketing tools have been the way to, have been the go-to way for brands to reach out to their consumers while maintaining an adequate level of sensitivity. So the impending third wave of the pandemic will most likely see more relatable content from brands across different sectors and would enable them to survive these very testing times. The new Bharat audience's demand and perception might change further, but storytelling in a way that resonates with their feelings would always enable brands to reach their consumers more effectively and efficiently. On that note, I thank Sumit, Runa, Neha, both Neha Bareja and Neha God, Pareen Latia, and Ram. Thank you for joining us today. It was really, really great to have you all.